as I let it go, I was like, I want some turkey bacon. You can't always argue with your wife every time thinking you gonna win.
You will get sandbagged by Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, I got mad trick shots. I don't know if there's anybody in the NBA that could beat me. Yo, he threw a flare. You know, he threw a flare like Roger off of American Dad. Like, I don't want to. He didn't want to really hit that dude.
Another day, another dollar.
And to make me want to holla.
I missed doing that last week, Sheed. And it was the first thing I thought about. I'm like, I sure hope he remembers to follow through. But as always, he delivers. Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob, Roscoe, Rasheed Wallace, wherever he is on the screen. Another week as we conclude the regular season. I can't believe that we have gotten to this point. But we've done almost, I think, 30 episodes together or something of some variety, whether we did it in person. I know it doesn't feel like it, and I don't take it for granted, man, because this is a unique part of my week in which we get perspective into the league, in which it doesn't matter how much basketball you watch. I mean, the stories that you can tell and the battles that you have been on the front for are a different story. So as always, we like to lead off our program with a moment in time. Now, I stumped Sheed last week because it was a date in which he was traded from the night he returned to Portland after being traded to Detroit. Some have been obvious, some are not. This one, I think, falls in the middle. And today's date is April 30th, 1997. What in the world of Rasheed Wallace occurred on April 30th, 1997? That's a minute ago.
That was playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
My second year in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to have been Cliff Robinson was still on that team. Gary.
Well, let's.
It might probably was an LA game or something like that. I think.
Hey, I knew you'd figure it out. Let's roll the tape and show this man. This was your first playoff campaign as a Portland Trailblazer and an NBA player. It is Game 3, the one game that you guys won in this series against the Los Angeles Lakers. It was a 5-game series back then. But
back then,
I see Shaq there. Look at the young Rasheed out there banging with Shaq. I know we've heard the stories about not going down there and getting physical with him, but this was a game that you put up 20-plus points in, and I just kind of, is that Kenny Anderson? Like, let's go through this because there's no Kobe out there, if I'm not mistaken, yet. There's Nick Van Exel. I see Eldon Campbell. Is there an Eddie Jones sighting? This is a unique Lakers squad against Cliff Robinson. Yeah. Look at the stare back from Sheed, man. What's going on today?
Oh man, that was definitely a lovely moment there. Back when we had PJ Carlesimo, he was our coach. But that was a good veteran team right there, though, man. I was one of the younger ones. Me, Gary Trent. I think did he leave then? D'Antonio Wingfield might have been on that team. We were the younger ones, but we had the veterans with Kenny Anderson. He still could go. Cliff Robinson, of course, him being him. Sabonis was there. He was a little bit younger, but of course Sabonis was older. We had Big Chris Dudley. You know what I'm saying? It was nice. It was nice. Damn, Shaq playing some great defense right there, though. But this is one of the games that Cliff Robinson was telling me about right here. You see, now I'm going back at him on the offensive end, and I got to go down the other end to guard him. And all of that, all the banging, all of it takes its toll, you know what I'm saying, in 4 quarters, man. So this is one of them games that Cliff Robinson was telling me about. Like, man, you got to start taking them outside the paint.
I saw Shaq leaning there a little bit. He pulled. It's very rare for the offensive player to pull the chair out on the defender, but you used your speed in the drop step there as Shaq was trying to lean on you a little bit, and I think put his weight on top of you just to kind of wear you down. And he leans over, falls over a tad, turn around, give him a jumper. Everything's on the mid-range. Look at you establishing position against the great Shaquille O'Neal. Face up, turn up, mid-range. This is exactly the type of shit you're talking about.
You don't know how hard that shit was though, because like I said, this was a younger Shaq. This was when I had to put him in being one of the best athletes at the time on the planet. He was young, he was mobile, and he was seasoned enough to know how to use his weight. See, when he was younger, he was just straight bully ball, bully ball. But as he got older, he learned how to use his weight and just leaning on that. Like Shaq is a big dude, yo. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and he just know how to lean, and then he can roll either way with it. So and you saw the way he was moving. He was sliding his feet and everything. That's how you know that was a young Shaq right there too. So, oh yeah, that was a great game, man. It was one of the many times that we were disappointed up there in the Rose Garden. But man, it was always a great series playing against them, and we had to take it for
So
everything that
this
it was. Anytime we beat them.
Yeah, so this was the birth of, I would say, the Lakers Blazers rivalry that would consume the next 3 years of the months of May, as you guys have started to play them
Yeah.
more in the conference finals as opposed to the first round. Granted, this was a 3-1 series victory for the Lakers. Man, there are some faces and some jerseys here with the trim that's really taken me back. But I chose this video by design because this is the first round of the playoffs, as we now in current day are moving into the first round in the playoffs. And
Look at young Kobe right there.
oh yeah, he is there. I'm sorry, I said before
Yeah,
that
yeah,
didn't
young
know if
young
Kobe was on the
Kobe.
team, he just wasn't on the floor. So it was
Yeah.
97. I was like doing the math on the draft, and I just forgot for a second. But yeah, that's this was the birth of the NBA on NBC, the Sunday 4 o'clock game. It would always be Blazers Lakers. And look at, I mean, you
Hmm.
got to be, first of all, you got to be insanely hype. A puppy that, and before puppies get neutered, before your dog gets neutered, they're out there just unlimited energy out there, man. I kind of, because you've been around for so long, I want to hear about your experience in the playoffs for the first time as a playoff rookie. You weren't an NBA rookie, but how did your preparation change? How did your mentality change? Was it just business as usual? Does the crowd get you hyped up too much? Is it a learning experience? That's what I'm interested in.
um, Man, I got to say it's all of the above. Wow, all of the above. It's playoff atmosphere for me. It was getting that real taste of playoff action, going against a great legendary franchise who had great players, Hall of Fame players on there. And yeah, it was all of that. I got hyped, yeah, in the first, down back, you losing your breath and shit because you so hyped and you so amped, but you get it under control. And that's one of the things I think that helped me, one, play for a school like North Carolina when you're playing in big games, and then with my high school career as well, playing in big championship games and knowing how to keep composure.
Hmm.
So playing in this game right here, it was fun, man. To me, I always thought that it was one of the better matchups. We were young. They were
Wow.
young. They were just starting on their run. And it was between us. At this time, I think it was us and Sacramento who will always give that Laker team a run for their money.
I'm looking at a young Robert Ory that's getting a little frustrated with
Big
an up
shot,
and
Bob.
coming. Yeah, Big Shot Bob's getting a little frustrated. A man that had just been through a championship run, little mini dynasty with the Rockets. He's getting a little frustrated by Roscoe over here in the post. Every time they are dumping it to you on the block, man. Ice, if you did that in today's game, they would be calling timeout. The announcers would be like, this isn't good basketball. What are they doing with all these mid-range turnarounds? But Lord, they are just feeding Sheed down there, having him turn face and either pull up or get to the free throw line. This was basketball in its, I don't want to say its purest form, but man, it was difficult to get some buckets in the half court set,
Yeah, it
considering the
was.
whistles and the physicality and the degree of difficulty some of these shots are. That's probably why the score is skewed into the 70s, 80s, just because the difficulty
Yeah.
um, of the quality of shot.
Oh
It was
my
a
man,
lot
Paul
different back then.
Allen.
Yeah,
Paul
but
Allen in there, Jay Ryder.
this is
Man.
This is a trip back in time for basketball historians such as myself. So I'm glad
But
that we
the
got the opportunity.
funniest part about that whole video though, the funniest part about that whole video, so they kept showing me at the foul line. The funniest part is now now my hairline is way different.
You had a very unique
but
look to you, whether it was the face, always the determination slash maybe a little tilted would be the correct poker term here. You're always looking like you just have a lust for blood one way or another. But you can see it in your play, and there's got to be a little nastiness. That's the only way to go up. How else are you supposed to play against Shaq? He has no mercy for you. I can tell you that much. He still has no mercy to this day. Talking about back then, he's like, you were weak. You weren't even worth my time. No respect. He does that shit all the time. He wouldn't say that about you though.
I mean, Shaq, that like you saw. And as y'all saw in that clip, man, look how agile he was to be 7'2", 7'3", 300 like 40 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever it was.
Monster.
Like with that agility, like come on, man, that shit's scary, bro.
And Sheed, I've met you in person now, but to this day, I don't think I've met a human with the height, size, and build, the bulk of Shaquille O'Neal, because I met him once at the award show, and even at the age of 50, whatever it was, I'm like, how big is this dude? He is just daunting. I can't even imagine when he was at his physical peak, and you're a big guy, and now I can see you're a bug against a windshield on the highway against somebody like that. That's just not a human, man. I can't believe it. How athletic
I didn't try to back him down.
Yeah, hell no. Now I see why you're telling the story about the ice. Cliff Robinson's like, what are you doing, bro? Don't stand in the way of a runaway train like that. Admirable.
Yeah, Shaq, that's my big brother for real, though. Good dude.
Yeah,
good dude.
Good. I'm glad there is a level of respect there, because you do that quite well, and I'm sure he enjoyed his battles against you throughout the days. And I did want to bring this up because this just popped up on my timeline before we started filming today. You may have been in the gym either today or yesterday. This shot, Bonzi Wells tweeted it out. You're working right now. You're training with a kid in the Memphis area, and he took a video of you doing the double. Bonzi said you've been making this shot for like 25 years. Do you just do this regularly? What?
It's one of my horse shots.
Okay, this is not
a horse shot. So look, all right. The funny thing about it, that was my 6th time this morning. That was this morning. That was my 6th time trying it, right? So Bonzi was like, man, Bonzi just so happened to join us in the gym today, Bonzi Wells, and he was like, man, you can't make that shot. He was like, you made it years ago. That was then. You can't make it now. I was like, all right, let's bet breakfast then. And that's why I was like, as I let it go, I was like, I want some turkey bacon.
How many tries did he give you? 10?
No, that was when I made it. That was my 6th time trying it in the morning.
Okay. All right.
That was this morning. Like about every video a couple hours ago. Yeah, that was funny though.
So back in the gym.
One of my horse shots.
Yeah, like he never left. Do you have that Michael Jordan quality to you that if there's something on the line, gambling, your talent goes through the roof? And if there's bacon, if there's breakfast on the line, that shit's going in. That's all we need to do with you is motivate you. Like Chauncey said, man. Either get a ref to tee you up or bet breakfast, and then that shit just going in.
Hell yeah. No, it was fun though, man. I always enjoy doing that. Just some of the trick shots that we all used to do. You know who was another good trick shot artist too? Believe it or not, Dale Davis. Dale Davis is another. Yes. Hey, it's a different game when you're playing horse or pig than when you're playing in the NBA for 48 minutes.
How many of those types of shots do you think you have in your arsenal? Just a trick shot where you take 2 balls and throw them over the back of you. A lot?
Oh yeah, plenty. I got on an NBA court, I got one shot where I stand behind the basket. Okay, behind you. So you know how big the NBA basket, you know how long the whole apparatus is, right? So I stand behind it and I shoot it up over the shot clock and
Wow. I
straight
want
down
to,
in there. I got mad trick shots.
because we see
I
videos
don't
now
know if
in the
there's
social.
anybody in the NBA that could beat me.
Oh, interesting. That sounds like a challenge because I was about to say in today's social media era, I feel like players are practicing these trick shots more because there's the potential to use it as a marketing tool, put it on Instagram, it'll do 10 million views with some ridiculous shot. You can produce it to make it look like it was the first try. But no, like
Right?
He's not even on Twitter. He's just there waiting for you to challenge without the cameras on. And if you want to play horse with trick shots only, buyer beware on this one. There's a golf term, getting sandbagged by someone that comes in with a higher handicap than they actually are. You will get sandbagged by Rasheed Wallace because between just casually doing me, moi, between just casually stepping at the 3-point line, shooting 2 balls up or throwing a ball over your head. Yeah, we see the full court shots. We see Steph do his little tunnel shot from time to time, but 20 years in the NBA is a lot of practice time in which you're standing around waiting for direction, and that results sometimes in a lot of boredom. And when NBA players get bored and they have to be required to stay in the gym, you know what they're doing? Practicing trick shots. So be careful. Facts. Okay. All right. So I think we have done our cold open / vamped enough. Let's move to the current event topic of the day. We wake up less than, let's call it, 24 hours after the Minnesota Timberwolves and the New Orleans Pelicans had themselves a little pre-playoff battle for some seeding, but that was not the story, as Rudy Gobert, who has been in the media for more reasons than I can count, and I certainly feel for the man because he's always on the wrong end, but then he does something like this where he punches a teammate. No matter what was said, I can give the context, being called a bitch a lot to his face and stood up for himself, but I'm going to stop talking and let
part of it.
I'm going to let the judge, the true judge of all of this, who I'm sure has been in situations, and I would love for you to maybe tell us a similar situation that occurred throughout your career. What do you think about what transpired here? He just got suspended, and he's not going to be available for the play-in tournament game. Let's talk about it.
Well, first, to me, it was kind of funny because it was a flare. Like if you really going jab and you really want to hit somebody, yo, I'm following through. I'm not just going to throw a flare. I'm coming with the second, third, fourth punch, and we all coming forward. Yo, he threw a flare. You know, he threw a flare like Roger off of American Dad. Like, I don't want to. He ain't want to really hit that dude, but that happens. All right, I'm not even going to front on y'all. That happens. You know, at times, here it is a big moment for this franchise. You got a lot of young players. Well, Rudy Gobert, he would be considered a veteran. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of these young players who, one, might have never been to the playoffs, or two, you're trying to get past that speed bump that where you failed last year. So they in the trenches together. So yeah, it's been times where I had some of my teammates call me a bitch and you know, all types of other things. But see, that's where you can't take it personal. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's like, all right, we're gonna save it for when we get into the back. So then that way, you know, you can hash it out no matter how you want to do it, talking, arguing, if you do get into a fight, whatever. You can't do that out there on the floor. All right, number one. And then if I'm not mistaken, they were at home, right? Mm-hmm. They were at home when this happened. And so what is that saying to your fans at home? Like, damn, our team is in all disarray at this moment. You know what I'm saying? We got star players, our star player, our star center who we traded everything but the kitchen sink for. Now he can't play in one of the most biggest games of our franchise history outside of Kevin Garnett. You know what I'm saying? So now here it is. You got the other young fella who he threw the flare at. All right, y'all going at it. Y'all going, that's cool. But both of them were right in a sense. You know, he's telling Rudy to block shots and Rudy's telling him that you rebound or you stop your man, whatever the case may be. We got to get on the same page because we can't have that in front of everybody. You know what I'm saying? That can be in the locker room. I've been on teams where it was fights in the locker room. Nobody know about. It never got out because we handled that shit behind closed doors. or
Facts.
any type of argument or beef, the execs from upstairs, they gonna come down, you know what I'm saying? And we handle the shit behind closed doors. So for that to happen out there like that, that wasn't the first time. That was something that boiled over from maybe a previous game or two, or maybe even practice. It's like that sometimes, but it was just fucked up timing because you trying to get into the playoffs and now you don't have one of your biggest forces out there on the floor with you. So now what's going to happen? Cat got to go back to the 5 where he didn't want to do, and you know what I'm saying? It's wild, man. It's wild.
So, like anything, there is context. This may have been building up over days, months,
Fact.
weeks,
I think it
whatever.
was.
But I did a little investigation late last night into the plays before it occurred, and there were several pick and rolls because this is when Brandon Ingram was just starting to get going a little bit, and he was giving Kyle Anderson buckets, and he was starting to get. You could tell his body language. He was starting to get frustrated because my guy's scoring a lot of points. Then there was pick and roll action that included Gobert either having a switch, hedge, or drop coverage of some kind, and ultimately BI just ran around it, got to the rim, and you can see Kyle he wasn't demonstrative, but you could tell he was starting to get a little frustrated with the situation of my guy continuing to score, and you're not helping. You're supposed to be the safety net, and then it all came to a climax, an apex, a culmination, whatever you want to call it, when Cat was inbounding the ball. Mike Conley was denied the inbounds, so Gobert was supposed to turn around and help, come back to the ball, and he was kind of late and lazy, and then it was a turnover, steal, and a foul on Cat. Cat takes the ball sheet, he walks over to the stanchion, and he kind of you could tell he wants to slam this shit so bad, but he doesn't. He holds it in, and you hear him say, "Rudy," and then he motions, you're supposed to come back, but he doesn't do it in a aggressive way. He does it in a frustrated way. We have a timeout. We go to the huddle. So far, everything is good, but there's some buildup from the play. This is nothing. This has happened 10,000 times before in the NBA when you're miscommunicating on pick and rolls, giving up easy buckets. People are yelling at each other. You go to the huddle and players get intense. This was not proprietary by any means. But then we get to the physical altercation, to your point, that everyone in the arena sees. Oh, by the way, Glenn Taylor is sitting 5 feet to the right watching this all transpire. The owner who's moving ownership, the governor who's moving ownership currently to Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez. Now there's collateral damage involved. You have a trainer there who was trying to patch up Rudy Gobert while he was throwing the punch. She gets hit by the bodies moving around. Absolute shit show. And to your point, I don't want to be one of those people that's like, Rudy's a bitch, because that's the easiest thing to do to get likes and retweets on the internet is just say, Rudy Gobert sucks. Kyle Anderson went to this man's face, and I read the lips sheet. I spent time slowing down the frames and reading the lips, and it went like this. He said, don't just let him lay it in, was the first thing, which was in regards to probably Brandon Ingram continuing to get layups that were uncontested. Jonas Valanciunas also got one on Gobert that he didn't jump and contest for. Then he says, don't do that. Don't do that, in reference to probably telling him, go get rebounds. I'll block shots. Then he goes, get your big ass back, you bitch. Something to that extent. And then there's a pause and he says, you're a fucking bitch. And it's right to his face. So Gobert, of course, like anyone else in the world, standing up for himself, I don't say is completely out of pocket, but because you are on a stage in front of Minnesota and the world and on television, by you escalating it to a physical altercation.
And your owner.
With the governor owner sitting right there, you now all of a sudden, by no choice, you have no say from this point forward. You are in the court of public opinion. And the public opinion is always going to pile not only on Rudy Gobert, but the person who escalates the situation regardless of what was said. So I agree with you. And I think everyone else watching this could probably think it's a logical thought process of, yes, it's fine for him to stand up for himself, but you have to wait till the locker room. And it sounds like, based on your experience, this has happened 100 times, and y'all go deal with it in the locker room, and you come out maybe a little bloody with some bruises, but it's resolved, and most importantly, people don't know about it. That's where they fucked up.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's
You
sad.
thought it couldn't get any worse for the Timberwolves. Granted, they ended up winning the game. Anthony Edwards had a great finish. The Timberwolves ultimately get their 8th place, so they're not in the do or die side of the play-in tournament. But they did. They took care of their business. They lose Rudy Gobert for the game. The locker room is a mess. And above all, Sheed, we still have to continue to talk about this game because a couple of minutes before this fight happened, who I would argue, despite all of the talent on the Timberwolves, is the most irreplaceable player, not best, but irreplaceable player on the entire roster in Jaden McDaniels, who is in contention for first team all defense, even had a defensive player of the year campaign there for a little bit, also carried the team while Cat, Ant, Gobert, all these guys were out and staggered for months. McDaniels was putting in 40 plus minutes a night. And guess what? He got frustrated about something. He walks down the tunnel, he punches the wall, and he breaks his hand. And he's going to be out probably for the entire playoffs now. I mean, I don't. This feels almost worse to me than the Gobert stuff.
It was, and you know what? It's a shame that this situation gets overshadowed by his play. You know, he's, as you just mentioned, he's been doing real well for the T-Wolves, holding the fort down for the most part. And yeah, it's an unfortunate accident, but I've seen it happen before. I've seen guys punch it's always like a fire extinguisher in the hallway. It might be in a little glass case. Seen guys punch that, cut they wrist or their hand. You know, I've seen guys punch the lockers and brick walls and metal doors and all that. Yeah, you got broken knuckles, fingers, jammed wrists, all of that. I've seen it all. But damn, no, dog. I mean, if you're going to punch something, shit, you know what I'm saying? Hit the punching bag.
For real. And this one's just so inexcusable.
Don't hit a wall, bro.
This one is so inexcusable to me for that. First of all, that exact reason. If you need to put a punching bag in the tunnel so someone can walk over and just unload on it. And I understand that McDaniels at the time probably wasn't in the right frame of mind and he regrets it, but you are too important to your team. And it sounds like this was all just self-inflicted wounds / he was just
across
upset
the board with that whole team.
Upset with himself, but there's collateral damage here because the team is not nearly as good when he's not there. And without Gobert, like their most irreplaceable piece is now gone, and they may ultimately not even make the playoffs. So you can sit there, and this is going to be me venting, being a boomer here for a second, but it sure seems like there's always this, my bad, sorry guys. I'm like, no, man, you really fucked us here. You really did. And you can't do stuff like that. You can't change the past, but you can fix the future. He really messed up. And the Timberwolves went from being that dark horse in the Western Conference that if the stars aligned, I could have very well made the case that they were going to represent the conference in the finals this year. That was not out of the question just a couple of weeks ago, but shit has just completely hit the fan. These Minnesota fans and citizens are used to this with their Vikings and the Twins and all of these sports, and I don't blame them. I see why now, because something like that simply cannot happen. And I guess I'm here today just to reinforce the point that a self-inflicted wound like that, if Gobert's defending himself, the McDaniels thing to me is simply inexcusable. And I don't know how to penalize him other than he's going to have to sit there and
that's the penalty. That's the penalty right there, because, you know, he wants to be out there and shit. It's like the old cliche. Hey, when it rains, it pours. Like, damn.
Man, sorry to hear that, McDaniels, because it's been a hell of a pleasure watching someone like that in an age of load management, someone that busts his ass every day, has evolved into the player that he is, won't be there. And I guess that is a very suitable punishment, that he's going to have to sit there on the bench and watch his guys go to war without him, the same way that if you're held captive and they take out your family members first, right? Yeah, that's got to be brutal sitting there, and hopefully he does learn a lesson moving forward. And I do want to transition this conversation, still stay within the playoff realm, and I alluded to it during the moment in time, but we are now in the middle of April. some of these players have between, let's say, 65 and 82 games on their bodies. They have traveled to 41 different cities, most likely as a part of road trips, road games, which means you're on a plane, you're getting little sleep. You have spoken about things like diet and how if you miss one day and you get a bad night of sleep, that could have a domino effect for an entire week in making you feel like shit. And you have to really manage your body. So the old adage is everyone has an injury this time of year, and there's no excuses, because whether it's a jammed finger or my back that hurts, we don't even find out about half the injuries publicly that these players are dealing with. So someone that's been there before has put in 2 decades of work in the NBA, both during the regular season and during a championship run, let alone the playoffs. I would love for you to educate me and educate the viewers on how your body feels this time of year, your preparation before playoff games, does it change at all? And the torque, violence, and intensity that's about to be put on your body, considering all of the scar tissue that's been building up here for the past couple of months and stuff. How do you deal with all of that? Because it's a real thing that I think we take for granted because of the superior athlete.
Well, I think for me, I always love the springtime. The spring, summer, that's my favorite seasons of the year. So when it goes back and you're in these cold, rainy ass cities like Portland, instead of snow, they getting rain for their winter time. And then being in Detroit, it's always snow and blizzards and all that. So when that spring comes, it's like you get that little bit of rejuvenation. It's starting to get warm outside. You feeling a little better. Now if you got a convertible, put the top down. You got all the windows down in the car. You got that spring air and you feel warmer. You feel better. Now, on top of that, now it's like, look, it's going to be hot in this gym. You know what I'm saying? Our fans going to be going berserk. And we're going to be ready. And you get that feeling, you get that emotion like, yeah, it's going to be a good game tonight. No matter win, lose, or draw, like it's going to be a good game tonight. Go out here, do our thing. Like, oh, I feel it. I get hyped. Like, shit. Truth be told, to this day, even now, during the finals, when they show the little commercials or leading up to the finals or whatever, like I still, get a little amped about it, and it automatically takes me back down memory lane for when we was preparing for this same walk. And man, it's a different feel. Of course, we all agree and we all know that it's the second season, playoff time. So of course you got to put everything on that next level that you do. You working out, making sure that you're taking care of your body, and that's a strenuous task. Because as you mentioned, throughout the year, you're in many different cities. You got 41 road games. So you in many different cities, probably like 3 cities within a 5, 6, 7 day time span. So you got to take care of your body. You got to be, what I always say, y'all, that professional. So I know, like, okay, now I'm not saying that a motherfucker can't go out and get some drinks, or, you want to go to cigar bar or whatever, or strip club, whatever. I'm not saying you can't, but you have to pick and choose. It's like arguing in a marriage. You can't always argue with your wife every time thinking you gonna win. No. I'm letting y'all know that, y'all. No. So you got to pick and choose your arguments. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way. You got to pick and choose the nights you go out. So when I was playing and the nights I was on the road, before the game, I didn't go out in Minnesota. I didn't go out in San Antonio. Other than just like a team dinner, or you might go to dinner with one of your homies or something like that. But for that, it was no hanging out. I'm not drinking. I'm not getting drunk. Yo, I got to guard this dude tomorrow. I got to guard KG, one of the best power forwards to play the game. I got to guard Tim Duncan, one of the best power forwards to play the game. C. Webb. I'm not going out getting drunk, because, for all of us that did get drunk, that day after, that's the worst one. Because, you sluggish, your head hurting a little bit, everything is all stuffy, you get hot, all of that shit. So, no, you respect it. You got to respect the game. You know what I'm saying? So, with you going out, you're not respecting, 1, yourself, 2, your teammates, and 3, the game. Because, like, shit, this is a huge game. So, no, I'm going to chill. I'm going to go ahead. The only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go out to dinner. Yeah, I'll have a couple drinks at dinner, but it ain't going to where I'm sloppy, getting up from the table, tipsy or no shit. You know what I mean? I'm going to have a respectable glass or 2 of wine or whatever the case may be. Yo, call that a night. Now, if I'm in another city and I'm going against somebody where who's not as good as those guys, then okay, I might get a little bit more, you know what I'm saying, off the handle. You know what I mean? Get a little bit more out of pocket with shit. But I know I gotta help other guys because okay, it might be the 2 guard or the 3 guard that's the man on the team where, Rip might need some help, or in Portland, Bonzi or JR might need some help, something like that. So you pick and choose the nights where you get fucked up. And when it comes to playoff time, though, but yeah, that playoff time is like, all right, you gotta chill out for what? A month and a half. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get a month and a half, and we've done 16 wins. That's
Would
it.
you say it's true or false that the playoffs put more wear and tear on your body than the regular season does, or is it just the same?
I think it's about the same. I think it's about the same because you got to look at it. Look at how many great games that you have throughout the year where it's a whole lot of bumping and grinding, everybody banging, you know what I'm saying, cats getting hurt, but it's still a good game throughout the year with some key matchups, no matter if it's like a good West Coast team versus a good East Coast team, or if you got two teams that's in that same division. You know what I'm saying? It's you always gonna have that playoff atmosphere when you have two good teams or two good rivals hook up.
And you started off your answer by alluding to the mental portion of the playoffs after giving physical answer for the majority of it. But let me go back to the mental. That I'm going to propose a hypothesis and tell me if it's somewhat accurate or not. But based on your answer, it sounds like to me that the regular season is kind of viewed as work, if you will. It's a grind. It's a regular season. The entire world isn't watching, but when the clouds dissipate, spring begins. You're on national television. You hear round ball rock dropped on the NBA on NBC. All of a sudden, it goes from being work to the passion that you love the game, right? The adrenaline gets pumping. And when your adrenaline gets pumping, all of a sudden, all of your injuries start to heal like your Wolverine with adamantium in his blood. Adrenaline is a great mask at covering up things like rolled ankles.
Yes.
And the moment that the game stops, all of a sudden it starts to hurt again. So that's just a very long-winded way of asking / telling you, you getting hyped up because this shit's fun. I'm looking forward to it and it's exciting is a natural progression from the 82 game grind of traveling between cities, kind of getting through the regular season to this point. So the mental state of the players is very like, this is why I signed. This is why I do what I do.
Yep. This is why I'm here. And that's the part of it where you get excited. You know what I'm saying? It's more a mental, like, all right, couple games left. Everybody else watching us. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, not only in our league, but in the world, they watching us right now. You know, it's only going to be a couple of games. So we got to go out here and perform. Everything means a little bit more. That possession, it means a little bit more. I'm not just going to come down and jack off a possession with a bullshit pass or take a 90-foot shot or whatever. No, these possessions mean more. These shots mean more. I got to be more efficient. You know what I'm saying? I got to cut down my turnovers. These are all things that coaches and good teams, one, talk about, and two, do during the playoffs. So, like, if during the year, you know, we fucking off and averaging 12 turnovers. All right, normal. Well, that shit ain't going to fall for in the playoffs. You know, we got to cut that 12 turnovers down to at least 6 or 5. You know what I'm saying? It sounds hard, sounds impossible, but nah, it's taking care of that ball. We got to be professional with the shit that we do. Take care of that ball. I don't have time to go out here and just jack off shots because, yo, they're going to come down, and if they're efficient, they're going to take advantage of it. So to go out there and just jack it off, no, you're going to think to yourself. You got to do everything to yourself. Okay, who am I guarding? What's his tendencies? Horns and fish side might be their favorite plays. You know what I'm saying? To get the offense going or whatever. You know, you're thinking about all of this as you're watching film. You know what I'm saying? You're hearing it from the coaching staff and probably some of the other veteran players, you know, who might know more about the guy you're guarding if you're not a vet yourself. So we always got a little joke that we say in the NBA. This game is 90% mental, 10% physical. And playoff time is that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to do the same dickhead things in the playoffs you do in the regular season. From going out to turnovers.
The lights get a lot brighter, both physically, literally, and figuratively. Got a couple of. So while we're on the topic of playoffs, now that we understand the body and inside the brain of a player that's not only been to the playoffs, but multiple championship runs as well, let's stay on the topic of the postseason. And it doesn't need to be a long answer. I'm just kind of curious so we can get it on the record. Who do you think is coming out of the East and who's coming out of the West?
Wow. Like I said, even though I've been not cheering for him too much, I still got to go with the home team. That's with my heart. But with my head, I got to say it's either going to be Boston or Milwaukee. Coming out of the East. So with the West,
it's a tough one.
I'm going with the all of a sudden crowd favorite. I'm gonna still go with Phoenix because I think that you have a great point guard with Chris Paul. You have a young, hungry two guard and Dev Booker. Then you got another veteran with KD, and you have a pretty decent big man. You know what I'm saying, that you got to respect. So with them, I think I could see them. I think the Western Conference Finals is going to be Phoenix and Denver, and I'm gonna go with Phoenix.
Well, that can only be the semifinals because it's 4 versus 1.
Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know the seedings. All right. But it's still that matchup. If they collide, it's going to be interesting because now what have I been saying all year? Now's the time we're going to see. The regular season's over, so we're going to see what the Joker got. Now it's now or never. Do or die.
Home court did not happen by accident, and the winner of Denver Phoenix here, according to Sheed,
didn't they have the most wins this year?
Either them or Milwaukee, probably really close. Denver lost a bunch down the stretch just by punting, just resting their guys and stuff, but they were formidable for 85. They were up there for 85% of the season. Before we leave the Western Conference real quick, I do want to just ask you your advice to Jaren Jackson Jr. in the context of my question, because this man is favored as of this very moment to win Defensive Player of the Year. We just learned Steven Adams is not going to be with the team for at least the beginning of the playoffs, recovering from his injury. Brandon Clark, who was so vital in that series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, is out with, I think, is an Achilles or lower leg injury. He's gone too. All of a sudden, the burden is falling on this kind of hybrid power forward center, very similar to how we've discussed and you've discussed Anthony Davis, kind of that can play either or, but he's going to have to step in there and be the anchor protecting the paint as he has all year. However, there is always an asterisk next to Jaren Jackson Jr. because you have to consider sometimes this dude, Sheed, just can't stay out of foul trouble. It's infuriating. He puts himself in a position that the referee blows the whistle and it's a weak call, but you're like, why did you chicken wing for no reason? You know they're going to try and call it. And then he ends up on the bench in foul trouble. And he ends up in these major games playing between 20 and 25 minutes when he needs to be out there for 40 to 45 for Memphis to make a championship run. So I want to ask you, as someone that we just watched earlier in the show and spoken about multiple times, has had to guard Shaquille O'Neal and some Kevin Garnett's and Duncan's and all of these big players that you needed to be available. The best ability is availability. Jaren Jackson Jr. needs to be available and on the floor if we want to take the Grizzlies serious coming out of the Western Conference. What would your advice be to him as someone that is a dominant rim protector? I would consider to be as dynamic of a talent and physical force such as yourself, outside in player that can stretch it, but also defend if you need him to. What were some tricks, some just, you can kind of not spill the tea, but you can reveal the way the soup was made now and how you stayed on the floor against these guys who I'm probably were thinking, I'm just going to bully through Sheed, get him into foul trouble, get him out of the game. How did you stay on the floor?
Going back to the same reference I just said a second ago, you got to pick and choose. He can't go after every shot now. As you just mentioned, I have no backups. It's all on me until my guys get back from these injuries. So I have to pick and choose. I can't go at every time somebody drive to the basket or say somebody posting Ja up or, one of the other guys. I can't come over their back and try to block it because one, I could foul. Two, it's leaving my man open on the offensive rebound because remember, I have no other bigs. I'm not out there with any other bigs. It's just me. So I got to pick and choose the shots that I go after now. Yeah, I could do that during the regular season. He led the league, I think, with like 2.8, 2.9 blocks per game or whatever. So it's well deserved. Young fella is definitely stepping up, and he's making a household name for himself. But now, again, playoffs, mental. I got to be smarter. I might have to give up some layups. I might have to give up some easy shots because of the fact of I don't have no backup. So now I got to play smarter so I can be out here, as you just said, on this floor for about, 40, 44 minutes, whatever the case may be for my team to win. So he just got to play smarter. That's all it is. Keep the same aggressiveness, though. You know what I'm saying? Don't stop that. Playing smarter doesn't mean you have to play slower. You just got to be smart. You just got to go out there and pick and choose. You know what I'm saying? Hey, go hard on offense, You know that if you take more than 2 dribbles, somebody's going to try to stand in front of you for a charge. So make sure 1 dribble pull up or I'm taking a layup, whatever the case may be. But you just got to play a little bit smarter. You know what I'm saying? Can't go after every block. And I think the Grizzlies might be all right, yo.
Yeah, let me follow up on the playing smarter part because one of the easiest ways to pick up a cheap foul is to just barrel and throw up that put shot and someone slides underneath you to draw a charge and you're like, what the hell? Like how is that on me? And then all of a sudden you're on the bench. Now, someone like Jaren Jackson Jr. and yourself, you are so long and your wingspans give you the benefit of being able to contest shots on closeouts with one, not having to run full speed and elevate into the air to block a shot. So since Triple J has a lot of the same attributes that you do, can I ask you how many times, or give it a percentage, what is the percentage that you would say you contested shots during the playoffs, let's just do the playoffs specifically, without leaving your feet? Did you leave your feet a lot to try and jump, or did you really just stay grounded so that you wouldn't buy a pump fake and get a cheap one? Because Jaren Jackson Jr. is always in the air, Sheed. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, he a P. Diddy. He a pump fake dummy. Again, because he's aggressive trying to get that block. But I say it's about a 50-50 thing, depending on where you are. Like, okay, if I'm out there on the wing and my man pull up, remember, I'm not trying to block a fucking jump shot. I just want to put my hand up, to make it a little bit harder for him to try to hit that 3 or to hit that, that mid-range shot. And then when you closer to the basket, if you in foul trouble, no, I'm not leaving my feet. I'm just, arm straight up. That's all I can do, arm straight up. And you're going to have to take everything. You're going to have to take the elbow. You're going to have to take the shoulders. The up and unders, the chicken wings, you just got to try to remain straight up. But if you do your homework, you always, again, pick and choose. You might know where to gamble at. He like to put it on the floor without, putting his left hand out there to guard me away. So, all right, I'm going to take a jab at it. Either I can get the steal or say the ball might hit off of his leg, go out of bounds. You never know. But no, you always got to get that max effort on either end, though. Because again, it's all mental, and you got to pick and choose, man.
I want to do my coach sheet for a second because the other video that we didn't show you from you're training a kid in Memphis currently, and the video someone took it and it went semi-viral on Twitter where you were demonstrating like why would you do all I'm paraphrasing you, but you say why would you do all that fancy shit. And then you do some step back because even if it works, you're letting the defense reset. You should be able to go from baseline to baseline in 4 dribbles, from here where you were standing outside the arc to the rim in 1 dribble, and you're emphasizing things like efficiency and not showing off unless you're the star of the team that's creating in isolation. So I want to do my version of that, but on defense, and I would be telling a kid that I was coaching, I would say, let's think of this as a math equation. What is, let's assess risk versus reward. And you just brought it up. You just said, I don't want to try and block a fucking jump shot. And I'm sitting here saying, thank you. Why is this so difficult to understand? But let me illustrate that and answer it. Because risk versus reward, what is the best case scenario of blocking a jump shot, let's say at the 3-point line or 20 feet away? The ball's going to go out of bounds and they're just going to retain possession. That's the best case scenario. It's very rare that you block a shot, it stays in play, and you're able to get a transition bucket out of it. That's the best case scenario. The risk is you buy a pump fake, you commit a foul, they don't actually shoot it, they just dribble past you, you miss on the block attempt, and then you've removed yourself from the play. It never made sense to me that anyone would ever leave their feet outside of 15 feet away from the rim. Yet all the time we get dudes like Jaren Jackson Jr. or even one of my favorite players, Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks, so big, jumps so high, but for no reason the guy just bites every pump fake. I want to scream from the mountaintop, Sheed, and say, you don't have to do that. Jump block, of course, you need to jump. If it's a wide open layup, you need to jump to try and contest that because the percentage chance of that going in is double what an 18-foot jump shot is. But it's a math play and it's risk versus reward. And to hear you just got to pick and choose your battles. It's such a simple answer from you, but no one does it. Nobody. It drives me crazy, especially when it's my own team that's guilty. Maybe I'm too deep into the game, man, but I see that shit and I'm like, that's low basketball IQ.
It's the truth.
It's low basketball IQ.
It's discipline. Yeah, that too. Because it's you know, you can play off of that on a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Especially playoff times. Like, okay, let's say whoever Jaren Jackson has to go against now knows that he's aggressive, knows that he likes to jump out the gym. Well, yeah, everything I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna sell a ticket to the show. I'm gonna give you all head fakes, all body fakes. I'm gonna get you on one. And you might even block a shot. But I guarantee you, I'm gonna get more fouls than you do blocks.
Facts. Print the shirts on that one. All right, we have reached the last segment of the show. As always, we like to end the program, put a bow on top of it, with a segment we call Respect the Game, where Rasheed is going to name a player and give you a little sermon on why this person or individual or player was underappreciated, what they trailblazed, pun intended, for the NBA. Last week we were discussing Clyde Drexler. She has almost 20 years of playing against, and I think the average NBA player length is a year and change when you add it all up, whatever the median is. He's seen a lot of guys. So that's just a way for me to be setting up the segment, Respect the Game, and ask Rasheed, who should the people know about today?
Today's Respect the Game, everybody already know. Everybody already seen him. You just don't really recognize him. If for some of our younger viewers, here's a good tip for you. So today's Respect the Game player is the logo. Ooh. The NBA logo. Mr. Jerry West himself. You know, Mr. Jerry West is a 9-time All-Star. He once as a player, but 8 as an executive with, of course, the LA Lakers. You know, he was a 14-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist in the 1960s. Of course, he's one of the best, you know, all-time 50s to ever play this game. He's a Hoff. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say the household name, but he's a household picture. You know, everybody has it on anything, any NBA paraphernalia any of y'all got, the jerseys, socks, tights, T-shirts, and you see that NBA logo, that's Jerry West for those who didn't know. And he was a smooth, devastating, powerful scorer. You know what I'm saying? He put buckets. He got buckets. That was like instant offense, just add water.
Oh no.
Of course, later in his career, played a little bit of defense, but when you're talking about major scores, what major scorer really played defense? But that he did. He played. He was on first team all defense. I think like twice throughout his career. Um, Hell of an executive. Hell of an executive. Again, he knows talent when he sees it. He was the one for all the Laker and Kobe fans. He was the one who drafted Kobe for the Lakers. So, dealing with that trade with the Charlotte Hornets at the time to get Kobe out there to LA. So, man, Jerry West was a not was because he's still alive. Jerry West is a powerful guy in this NBA world today, man, and everybody got to respect, and you should respect his word if he gives you his opinion on players and situations involving the NBA in today's game.
There are a couple of standout, what I would consider to be daunting. I don't know if that's a derogatory term, but just memorable presences when they walk into a room. And I've been to, I would say, I can count on one hand the number of parties which included NBA legends, just scattered throughout the room. And there are certain guys that when they walk into it, the seas part and heads turn and the music gets a lot quieter. And it's not that they're walking in with an entourage, but there's just a presence and, I don't know, aroma. I'm struggling to find the proper word. I would say Jerry West is on that list, that the logo walks in and you get the neck breaker, the turn. Oh, the logo's here. Bill Russell was that way.
All-star.
Yeah. But Bill Russell was above and beyond number one on that list. Guys like Kareem, but Jerry West, of course, that guy still to this day in the year 2023, even different generations know about the logo because you see it everywhere. So with that said, I think that's going to conclude this pre-playoffs edition of That's What She Said.
Ready for some good basketball, y'all.
Keyword pre-playoffs. So we'll be here continuing to chime in and major events that occur, and I'm sure Sheed will be watching. He'll have certain things that remind him of some stories back in the day, and as they naturally, organically come about, we will be here to cover it all. So for the man himself, Roscoe Rasheed Wallace, I'm Rob Perez, Worldwide Wild. We will see you same time, same place next week.